Welcome back. Most people assume post-traumatic stress disorder affects mainly soldiers, but studies suggest that nearly 1 out of 10 Canadians may develop PTSD at some point in their lives. A few weeks ago, we introduced you to a technique being used at UBC to cope with stress by literally shaking it off. Today, we're looking into another way to cope with anxiety known as EMDR therapy. Joining us now to talk a little bit more about this is registered clinical counselor Robert Grigore. Thank you for being here, Robert.
Thank you so much for having me, Jennifer.
So what does EMDR stand for and what is it?
Okay, so EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a long name, so we just shorten it to EMDR. And what EMDR is it's an accelerated form of trauma processing. And kind of to understand that a little bit more, I have to describe a little bit about trauma. So under normal circumstances, the brain receives information basically through the right side of the brain, and sight, sounds, smells, body sensations, etc., and simply moves it over to the left side of the brain, which is the language center of the brain, kind of the logical, analytical side of the brain, and just kind of puts it away, and that's it. But under stressful circumstances, the brain shifts from that normal processing into trauma processing, into this sort of fight, flight, freeze response that most people know about. And so when you're in that survival response, the brain doesn't process the information normally like it would under normal circumstances, and it actually gets stuck in the right side of the brain. And then later on, throughout life, anything that reminds the individual of that trauma, it's a trigger, and then the individual responds similarly, just like they did at that earlier trauma. So what EMDR is it's a process where we look at those traumatic memories and we help the brain speak to both sides of the brain, so the information that's stuck on the right side of the brain moves over to the left side of the brain. And then after the process of EMDR, that memory that the person was working on is no longer a problem.
Interesting. And they do that, and we're just watching some video there of what I assume is a session. Is that right?
Yes.
And so what exactly is she doing?
So right now she's doing some eye movements right here. Mm-hmm. So by moving the hand from one side of the face to the other side of the face, and the individual is following the hand, the right side of the brain is connected to the left eye, and the right eye to the left side of the brain. And so as you're passing back and forth between your eyes like this, the individual is accessing both sides of the brain. So it's helping that information that's stuck become unstuck.
Huh, fascinating. How did you guys figure out that it got stuck?
There's a long history. It was developed by Dr. Francine Shapiro, the late, great Dr. Francine Shapiro. And she discovered that by walking through a park, just randomly moving her eyes around, and found that whatever she was thinking about was suddenly kind of disappearing.
Okay, so this is something simple that people can even do at home maybe, or do you need professional help?
Well, I wouldn't recommend doing it at home because there's quite a bit that goes on in EMDR. It's quite a structured process. So it's definitely better to have a therapist present that's certified.
So when do you know that you would need this kind of therapy, and is it even mainstream at this point?
Well, that's a good question. A lot of people don't really know that they need it, but once they hear about it, they are like, yeah, I need this immediately. It's very common. Most of the research and people are aware of EMDR know about it in regards to PTSD, but it's, everybody, in my opinion, is a trauma survivor to some degree, because we've all had, difficult times in our lives. So anybody that's struggling with anxiety, depression, maybe is having difficulty, maybe procrastinating, maybe have some relationship problems, almost everything that you can think of is something that EMDR can work on.
Okay, if people would like some more information on this, where can they go to?
Well, you can certainly go to my website, grigorecounselling.com. You can go to the EMDR International Association's website, that's www.emdria.org, or emdrcanada.org.
All right, thank you so much for coming in today. That was fascinating. That's registered clinical counselor Robert Grigore.
Thank you for having me.
Joining us. Thank you.